Who's ready for a trip around the NBA? All 30 teams, all injury reports, getting ready for Christmas week. Michael Bolton?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and you are cooking with Kaya. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and the NFL playoffs are almost here, but don't forget you can cash in still on the regular season by getting $250 in bonus bets as a new customer. If your first $5 bet wins, go to FanDuel.com to get started. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com and get the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. That is LockedOnDaily.com. You might notice, you probably won't, because it's me just being pedantic if you're watching on the video side. The lighting is just a little bit off. These lights that I've got are great. And then as I woke up this morning, my computer had decided to restart itself and put it into BIOS mode, so that's great. But I restarted it, and they all disconnected from my control panel. If you guys or anyone does any content stuff and works with Elgato lights, they can be great, but they also can be really, really frustrating in terms of getting them to connect up properly. So all of my brightness settings and all of my color warmth and all that sort of stuff that I had set a certain way is gone, and I can't get them reconnected. So it's a little bit sort of off on the coloring. So I do apologize. Again, you probably didn't notice it, but maybe you notice it now. I don't know. And as I say that, they've all just reconnected. I'm going to go try and fix it. Now, I don't know if anyone could tell the difference there in that little cut in between, but the lights reconnected as I was complaining about Elgato. So you know what, Elgato? Thanks to your complete mystery and wizardry, it connected. I don't know how it happened, but here we are. We're talking NBA injury reports. All 30 NBA teams to have a chat about. We'll start at Atlanta. And because there are 14 games on Monday, you're going to have a lot of guys sitting there with probable and injury tags. Because there is a day off on Tuesday, any team that are in situations where a player is marginally banged up, they're probably going to take that extra day, especially the teams that don't play Christmas Day, or even the teams that play Christmas Day, because then you can get them 3 days off, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe even Thursday, to get some nagging injuries right, get them that prolonged treatment and rest. This happens often around these breaks in time during the season. You'll see it again. Often happens in that game before the All-Star break. You will see these little one-day rests, which teams can then turn into 3 or 4 game recoveries. That is what happens very often. Atlanta. Both Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic are listed questionable for Monday's game. Trae with a heel. He's been dealing with Achilles stuff all season and ankle stuff, and Bogdan's been dealing with a hamstring all year. That's okay. And Onyeka Okongwu, we're looking at a return towards the end of the week. Obviously, we've seen Larry Nance really step up. It's hard to fully rely upon Larry Nance. I know that. It's been 2 games, and he's done it in 2 different ways, and that's hard to rely upon. But yeah, he is streamable. Dominic Barlow is dealing with an illness. He's just not playing. And then, of course, Kobe Buffkin is out for the season with a shoulder injury. The reigning NBA champs, the Boston Celtics, the only bloke on the injury report there is Slamming Sammy Hauser, who's had this back problem for weeks now. He's sort of going to be on the injury report, I feel like, for a while as well. He's useful at times, but it is really tough to sort of peg down when he's going to be available and what minutes he's going to play and what his role is going to be. He's going to be one of those sort of churning, rolling players that we use at times, but we don't feel super confident about relying upon. If we go to Brooklyn, it's a little bit more clear, I think, there in terms of who the injured players are and where we're sitting with them. Cam Thomas has been out for a while with a hamstring injury. I've got a preemptive return around the 27th of December. That could easily push into the new year, though. Of course, when Thomas returns, it's going to kill someone like a Keon Johnson. Probably not kill him, really, but maybe his fantasy value. Shake Milton's value takes a hit, and everyone else just doesn't dig to do as much. And Cam Thomas will get an opportunity to shoot 35% on 25 shot attempts. Dorian Finney-Smith is dealing with a calf contusion. He is out on Monday. I think that he will also probably sit the next game because the Nets have a back-to-back as well. And the same goes with Zaire Williams, who's dealing with a knee sprain, which has been a while now. But all of those guys, Thomas, Finney-Smith, and Williams, it's important because that impacts the rotation value of other guys. Noah Clowney is going to be very interesting. He's played big minutes the last 2 games. And if Finney-Smith remains out, and I think he will, then Noah's going to be at least marginally interesting as a stream guy. I've got Trent Watford returning in January from a second hamstring strain. He's not really going to factor in too much, but the big one that I just don't understand what we do with this, and that's Bojan Bogdanovic, who had the foot surgery. We heard like one update really on him, and maybe I'll push it out to a middle of January return. Here is the question. Does Bojan Bogdanovic ever play for the Nets? I'm not sure that he ever does. It's been a weird scenario where he had the wrist issue, the foot issue, and they just keep pushing the time back. I guess they would want to trade him at some stage. But I don't know. And when he does play, it does impact everyone because he's good enough to play. He could Malcolm Brogdon his way through there. The difference is the Nets don't have an abundance of young guys that he'd be taking their minutes. It just would make things more messy. And we just don't really have any clarity on that with Bojan Bogdanovic. For Charlotte, Brandon Miller has been ruled out of Monday's game. Their next opportunity to play is on the 26th of December. He's dealing with a sprained ankle. I expect that he's able to return for that one, but of course we don't know at this stage. And then Terance Mann with the back problem. I posited this weeks ago that I think this injury might be pretty significant, and we just keep getting, 2 more weeks. And we know that in the past, Charlotte has been really bad with that. They just do it one more day, and that would last for 6 months. This time, we're pushing out 2 weeks. I've got a 3rd of January Terance Mann return there. I'm actually really uncertain about that because that is the 2-week reevaluation around that time that they gave us. I would not be shocked if we're seeing him before the All-Star break, to be honest. I think that it is a significant injury for Mann. They haven't let us know about that, but that's how it feels to me. Of course, he had that little burst to begin the year, and there's no reason to be holding Terance Mann at this stage. In Chicago, we've got 3 injuries or 3 injury statuses that don't appear to be serious. Josh Giddey with the ankle injury, he told us he was a chance to return on Monday, so this is Monday. Otherwise, I would say he's probably got back for the next game. Lonzo Ball popped up out of nowhere with an illness, so he's questionable. And then Torrey Craig with an Achilles injury, but he doesn't play. Of course, if Giddey and Ball are out, you're going to get a lot more Kobe White, a lot more Zach LaVine, and a lot more Ayo Dosunmu. And if both of those guys are out and Dosunmu plays 40 minutes, which honestly, he probably will, that is always going to be my cue to sell high on him because he'll put up a big game. He might go for 25 points on 7 shots with 7 assists and 3 steals. And people will love Ayo, definitely more than I do, and understand that there are 2 other options there who aren't playing. So that is how I would be approaching that. But if you've got Ayo Dosunmu, you enjoy it. You love the game and you just ride that out, which is totally a reasonable way to approach it. In Cleveland, we've got a lot of sort of players who play the 3 who are on the injury report, which has been that way for a big portion of the season. Slamming Sammy Merrill with a quad contusion. He's questionable. Dean Wade with a knee issue that's bothered him for a while. I think Wade just might sit this one with that knee. He's questionable. Isaac Okoro, I said knee, but I actually think it might be wrong there. I think it might be his shoulder. Anyway, he has had knee problems throughout the season. But we know that all I can tell you about Okoro is he's going to be out for a period of time here, and it's going to cost him, I've got until the 8th of January for him to return, and then Amani Bates, who we have not seen play this season. I've got a January return for him, but I don't really think that's going to matter. He might get some garbage time minutes in April once they've locked up the number 1 seed, which is possible. And someone asked me today, hey, I be worried about Cavs guys who are going to shut guys down because they're so good? That doesn't really happen to that degree. We saw this happen with Boston last season, is they were so far ahead of everybody, but they didn't just say, all right, you're done. What they did is they just started resting guys a little bit more. And I don't think the Cavs are going to have that size of a lead. It's not really a thing where the good players just sit for weeks at a time or sit 4 games in a row to end the season. They will get more time off, and there'll be some limits on what they do if they are far enough ahead. But I don't think Cleveland's going to be that far ahead, and it's just not going to mean they're shutting down for an extended period of time. So you get some occasional Bates games, I'm guessing, but nothing that really is like something we need to super care about. All right, the next team to take a look at here, we go to the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic dealing with this, they're calling it a heel issue now. He's had a wrist issue. He's missed the last 2 games. He's questionable for Monday. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, Spencer Dinwiddie, Quentin Grimes are the guys that we take a look at in that spot. Jaden Hardy is out for Monday. Maybe he's back on Christmas. Not sure it matters a huge amount. Although if Luka is out, he would play a little bit. And then Dante Exum with a wrist. We haven't seen him all season. Middle of January still remains a likely spot there, and he's not going to be a fantasy relevant player. And then midway while I was creating these graphics, I thought, hey, it might be an idea to designate which of these guys are 2-way players. So that's what I've got there with Brandon Williams and a little logo next to his name. Williams is dealing with a thumb issue. He's ruled out at least for Monday's game. Maybe he's back on Christmas, but I'm 100% sure that it doesn't really matter. The next time, or the next team we take a look at, the next team we look at is the Denver Nuggets. The headmaster, Jamal Murray's popped up with an ankle problem for Monday. He is questionable. That is a back-to-back for Denver. Dario Saric is listed probable with an ankle. He's not likely to be a major rotation piece anyway. And then Vlatko Cancar, they haven't ruled him out for the season. I basically think he's out for the season, but we just don't know. Otherwise, it is multiple months. With his knee injury, they've been very non-specific about it, and that makes it a little bit hard to understand exactly where he's at in his recovery, but that's where we're at. In Detroit, it is the big fella, the Flamin' Galah, Alf Stewart, who had that knee hyperextension. He's out for Monday. We don't know any further on that. Initially, I ruled him out for about 3 or 4 games, I think it was, and we're at that period now, so maybe there's a Boxing Day return, and those of you in America, that is December the 26th. But also maybe not. He might be out for 2-3 weeks after that. They've given us nothing concrete whatsoever about Isaiah Stewart's injury. And in his place, you get Paul Reed playing those minutes. You've got an increase actually for the passport legend in the last one, Jalen Duren. And Reed becomes at least a deeper league streamer in that specific situation. In Golden State, Draymond Green and Moses Moody are both questionable for Monday's action. Green's missed the last one with a leg issue, and we saw in that game that it was Trace Jackson-Davis who stepped up. That makes him interesting. I wish that we could just get 25 a night of Jackson-Davis. It's a very clear 12-team league player in that scenario, but of course that hasn't been the case. It might be for the foreseeable future, but of course Draymond might play in this game, and that completely ruins it. While Moses Moody is sort of on the fringes of the rotation, he's dealing with this knee issue. All he does is come in and play like 7 or 8 minutes, which further hurts Hield and Pajemski and Schroeder and Kuminga and Anderson and Waters and Payton and every other idiot in the world on that team who gets impacted by the old rotations. We've got more stuff to come back and talk about, which we will. But today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood Gold, to be specific. You do not need the old silver spoon to get those financial favors of the 1% with Robinhood Gold. It allows you to get the rates and the perks that it usually reserved for high society. And now you, as a resourceful individual, can use Robinhood Gold to get yourself into that high society sphere with a very, very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold gives you those privileges that anyone with a high net worth could have, but now it's available to anybody with any net worth. The generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. A new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. All right, let's go in now, look at the Houston Rockets and their current injury report. Tari Eason is dealing with what they're calling leg management, which feels like an injury to me because he had this leg issue last season, and we hope everything's all right because last season he had a growth. It was benign, it wasn't malignant, but there was a tumor growth on his leg that caused this long-term problem that cost him the season, basically. And now we are getting the same designation, or a designation of leg injury management, which is weird. Right, they obviously went in surgery, removed that, but to me, I am a little worried now. This is extending a little bit too far for me. I hope everything's all right with Tari, but the fact that they are managing it not on back-to-backs, but a prolonged absence suggests something is not right. We hope it's all right. I've got him there as a 12th, December the 26th return because we just don't know. But I am. If he's ruled out for like the next 2 games after this, I will be significantly more concerned about Tari Eason. I think we're getting close to a return from Aaron Nesmith in Indiana. He's dealing with the ankle problem. He's not going to play on Monday, but they've got a really nice run of games here. His return won't make him usable necessarily. It will just hurt Ben Mathurin, Andy Nembhard, and TJ McConnell and all that sort of stuff. And it probably further cements Mathurin as a drop overall, and I think he's clearly there. And it probably stops you from making someone like Nembhard an ad, even though he was pretty good in the last game. But it looks like Nesmith is going to be coming back pretty soon. For the Clippers, bit of an injury pop-up there out of nowhere. Ivica Zubac coming up with a calf contusion. He is questionable for Monday. If he is out, well, you would be very interested in Mo Bamba. But there are 14 games on, so it's very easy to say if Mo Bamba plays 28 minutes, he will be awesome, and I would love to get that production. That is true. That is absolutely true. He would absolutely be a usable player on Monday if Zubac is out. But is it worth burning an ad to replace, like, he'd be good, but he would replace someone else who's in your active lineup. So you're not gaining an extra game. You're not gaining an extra 28 minutes. You're not gaining any of that. And then they play 2 games only this week. So 1 more game for the week. And Zubac might play in that second game. So while on the surface you go, man, Zubac's out. Bamba, time to cook. He's going to be way better than the guy who's the 10th guy in my active lineup, which is probably true. But how much better is that? When, again, you're replacing a game for a game. You're not gaining an advantage. You're gaining a marginal increase in production. Also, Bumba's terrible, so maybe he has a bad game. So, be cautious. And that's not just the Mo Bamba situation. That's really any sort of spot here on Monday. If you don't think you can get multiple games out of it, it's not going to be worth it, I don't think. Terance Mann, we've got coming back early January with that finger issue. His return just further makes it weirder for Dunn and for Kevin Porter, who's had an increase in minutes in the last game. So we just watch that one. We don't need to do anything necessarily with it. Kawhi Leonard, I see, who knows? Maybe soon. Maybe is he back after Christmas? Is he back in January? How long does he last? It does appear that we are going to see a Kawhi return. I'll say loosely within 3 weeks. But I also don't know. He could pop up at the end of this week. That's why I say WFK. I don't know. Because, as we know, they are the masters of lying in terms of Kawhi's injuries. Kobe Brown also dealing with a back issue, which, again, he is out on Monday. That further leads credence to the Mo Bamba situation, because who else is playing center? I guess it'd be Nick Batum, because PJ Tucker's not going to play. Kobe Brown's out. It would have to be Mo Bamba, because Kobe remains sidelined. For the Lakers, a lot of injuries with these guys, a lot of similar ones, but a lot of garbage stuff as well. Anthony Davis is listed questionable for Monday with an elbow contusion. Do not be shocked if the Lakers sit these guys. Again, they are banged up, both him and LeBron. LeBron's dealing with a foot issue, apparently. They could both sit Monday, don't play Tuesday, get the extended break, play on Wednesday on Christmas Day. Would not be shocked. Would not be shocked about that at all. And then that opens up a million things for somebody like Max Christie, somebody like D'Angelo Russell, somebody like Rui Hachimura, maybe even someone like, I can't believe you fell to pick 17 legend Dalton Connect. But just watch to see who's in or out there. And of course, Christian Koloko would probably have to be the starting center, because Christian Wood remains out until, I'd say, the new year. Jackson Hayes is probably another week away, I'd guess, maybe the end of the week with an ankle injury. And Jared Vanderbilt maybe comes back. Jared Vanderbilt rewards maybe. Doesn't come back until maybe the middle of January. The other one there is Jalen Hood-Schifino, who's dealing with a hamstring injury. What's the over-under? How many games does Hood-Schifino play this season? He's played 1, I think. Does he play any more? Because he's obviously terrible and they don't like him. In Memphis, Desi Bane just popped up on the injury report with an illness. So if he is out, then you do really get that extra value from Jalen Wells, because there's no Marcus Smart either, and Lawrence of Laravia, Big Jakey. Those guys would get bumps, and maybe they'd play Pippen and Morant together. That's possible. Smart is out. I think he returns after Christmas with his finger issue. Same with the Dragon. Jay Huff, who's dealing with an ankle sprain. With Huff out, it just means Edie and Clark take all of those minutes at center, and that pushes Clark's streaming value up. Vince Williams and GG Jackson, I don't think we're seeing them before February, so obviously there's no real value in holding them, and it just keeps the baseline value of Marcus Smart, but less so like a Jake LaRavia with that little, and Jalen Wells with some baseline appeal. In Miami, Jim Butler is questionable with a sore tummy for Monday's game. But when Jimmy is out, you got Drew Smith start in the last one. It could be Jaime Jaquez, it could be Duncan Robinson, it could be Pele Larson, not necessarily who starts, but who gets a bump in minutes. Terry Rozier is probable, while Joshie Richardson dealing with an ankle, which has been an ongoing issue for him all season, headaches and ankle. He's just not a part of their plans, really, it doesn't seem like. So the Butler one's the big one, but of course, again, if Butler sits, would you bother streaming in Drew Smith on a 14-game day? Exactly the same. It's the bumper. Would you bother with a bumper for Drew Smith? Probably not. Probably not. But you know that Smith at least is getting 30 minutes or 28 minutes a night most other nights. But be really cautious when there's potential one-game absences. In Milwaukee, well, they definitely took the advantage here. And I'm not saying that there's not something happening with these players, because I'm pretty sure there is. But Dame is out on Monday, and he had a calf issue for the back-to-back. And now they're listing him out with an illness. Now, that's fair enough, because it looks like an illness is sweeping through this Bucks team, but I am very certain that he'll be available on Monday. We also had Middleton was out with the illness for the NBA Cup final, and now it's Lillard, Chris Livingston, and AJ Johnson, who are all dealing with this illness. Not that Livingston and Johnson necessarily would have played, although maybe Reverse Drake would have played Chris Livingston with Giannis and Dame Lillard out. Giannis is dealing with a back issue, and this is definitely not a back issue. I mean, Giannis is banged up, obviously. He's had calf and knee issues. Now they're calling it a back, but they're just giving him an extra day off to be able to play on Wednesday on Christmas. I am certain of that. This means it's a big opportunity for Punch Bobby Portis. It's a big opportunity for the artist formerly known as Torian Prince to score 3 points. And then you get someone like Chris Middleton will have to do a little bit more usage-wise. And then it's Big Boom AJ Green. It's Gary Trent, it's Ryan Rollins is going to have an opportunity here. But again, is the stream worth it? Almost definitely not. Almost definitely not with the way that the schedule is playing out. In Minnesota, Jingling Joe Ingles has got that calf issue still. I've put a return of Christmas. They're just not giving us any time frame. I actually don't care. I don't think he'll necessarily be back around that time. It could be last longer, but they've given us no real update on that. And then Luka Garza popped up with an ankle problem. He's ruled out for their Monday game. Maybe he's available Wednesday. It also doesn't matter because he's not a part of the rotation. Well, Daishen Nix also popped up with an ankle problem. He is a two-way guy. He's questionable for Monday, and he's not really going to have any utility for us in that spot. The New Orleans Pelicans are one of the only teams here that does not play on Monday, the other one being the Sacramento Kings. So we get a little bit of time to wait on them, but we don't have an accurate injury report. So Trey Murphy left the last game with an ankle sprain. I don't know whether he's going to play on Thursday. In fact, I think he will because it is enough time here to rest up, but I'll put him as questionable for now. It didn't appear to me to be something that's going to be a multi-week injury, but you just never know. So I'll put Trey Murphy as questionable there. Ingram and Zion, I'm looking at maybe a 1st of January around that time return, but also there's been no updates on Zion whatsoever, nor with Ingram, so that's a very fluid date. Jose Alvarado and Kalo Makovic, there is a chance I think they're able to return on Thursday. Makovic, it doesn't matter because he's not playing. And then Alvarado probably just comes in and maybe has an impact on those big minutes that Jordy Hawkins is getting. It also means that we probably don't get to see BJ Boston in the rotation. If Alvarado is back, it'll be Alvarado and Hawkins getting a lot of that guard reserve playing time. And then the bunch of spuds like Jamal Cain and Javonte Green and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl getting the backup forward minutes in that position. For New York, Mitchell Robinson, we're looking at a February return for him. I do not think that is worth stashing. And I put this other man here, not because he's injured, but he was at the start of the season. Landry Shamet suffered a shoulder injury, and the Knicks waived him, and now he's back. They waived Matt Ryan. Landry Shamet is healthy. He is on the roster, and he was looking like he was going to be a part of the rotation. Now, this doesn't matter for most of you, but what it matters for is deeper leagues, because they sometimes, God forbid, had to play a young player, and Paco Mdadier would get 4 minutes or so, or Tyler Kolek would get 4 minutes. I don't know why I call him Kolek like that. Tyler Kolek would get some extra minutes. Now, they're just never going to play, and you're going to have Payne, you're going to have McBride, you're going to have Shamet, which is interesting, because they're all point guards. Yeah, or at least point guard adjacent players. But this means that the value of McBride as a streamer gets cut down and Payne gets cut down and Shamet's not going to do enough. But there's enough of these guards now in this rotation that renders those guys relatively useless. So let's just see what they do with Shamet. But I think there is an opportunity here for him to at least play some extra minutes or some minutes in general. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it is not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get all ready to go with the season and $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So many ways that you can pick up a W with FanDuel. You can bet on anytime touchdown scorers. If you think someone's going to score a touchdown, bet on it. You could bet on the individual points for a certain team. You could look at the total for the entire game. You've got the standard money lines and spreads, but individual player props and futures, all that is there over at FanDuel. So go to FanDuel.com and join today and get a chance at $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right. Let's look at the Oklahoma City Thunder now, who have got some injuries, obviously, as a lot of teams do. Chet Holmgren with the hip issue. I'm expecting trade deadline, All-Star around that time for him to return. It does make it a hard stash, but we're getting close to like a 6-week return, and hopefully in like 3 or 4 weeks we get a little bit of an update on Chet. Of course, Hartenstein continues to roll. I guess you look at him as a sell high, but I don't really. I think that Chet is at risk of being pretty limited. I would just be rolling with Hartenstein. Brandon Carlson, someone on this team who is not a two-way player. He's in the concussion protocol, so maybe he's back Boxing Day, but it doesn't really matter. And then Adam Flagler is a two-way guy. He's got a hand fracture. We're looking at a middle of January return for him. The Orlando Magic, that is where we've got significant injuries, obviously, but hopefully we're getting Paolo Banchero back soon. He tore the oblique. Maybe, initially I thought maybe Christmas. It doesn't appear like that's going to happen, so maybe it's January 1st, around that time for Paolo to return, which would, of course, impact the value of other guys who might be stepping up now, Cole Anthony or Mr. Black or Tristan Da Silva, because Banchero is going to come back. He's going to play 35 minutes or so. Jalen Suggs was probable in the last game. He didn't play. He's questionable for Monday's game. I wouldn't bother looking too deeply into streaming in like an Anthony Black in that spot. Cole Anthony cooked in the last game, but There's also no guarantee he does that here, even though they do need his shot creation. So, yeah, it's a risky proposition with 14 games on. Franz Wagner also has the torn oblique. I'm looking more towards the end of January for him to return. Gary Harris has been out for about a month with a hamstring injury. He's ruled out again. I think they've got a Thursday-Friday back-to-back, so I don't think he plays in both of those games. Maybe he returns at the end of the week and plays his 14 minutes or so, and then that impacts further Cole Anthony as well, and Anthony Black and Jed Howard and these sort of guys. But this really doesn't matter for the majority of us in fantasy. And then, of course, Mo Wagner tore his ACL. He is out for the season. There's no other center that's going to come in. What this means, though, is that the floor for Goga Bitadze and the floor for Wendell Carter is increased. The ceiling is also increased, but there's none of this situation like, well, what if when Paolo and Franz comes back, how are they going to play three centers? Well, they don't. There's only two now. So you will get Goga playing minimum 25. You'll get Carter playing minimum 26, and both of them probably getting 28 a night, making Goga a very clear 12-team league guy, a very, very clear must-roster player all across all leagues, I'd say Goga. As for Carter, it's a little bit iffy because he's already been playing his 27, 28 a night, and he's not a great per-minute producer, and he's not going to be asked to play the Mo Wagner role of like, hey, just get a million shots up on the second unit. But it does help his floor. It means that maybe he goes from 27-minute floor to 28 or 29-minute floor, and maybe the ceiling pushes to 30 or 31. And we'll see what happens on Monday, but that's sort of where we're sitting, I think, with our Razzmatazz legends, the Orlando Magic. The Philadelphia 76ers, Tyrese Maxey just popped up on the injury report for Monday's game with an illness. He is probable, so I think we're all good there. Eric Gordon had some oral surgery. I'm not even sure whether he's going to play or not in future games. He looked like he was popping into the rotation. They were sort of marginalizing Kyle Lowry, but there's no guarantee of this, of course. Ricky Council IV, dealing with knee soreness. He had pushed up into some decent minutes as well, but it's just a mess. The Martins, Caleb and KJ, Ricky Council, Gershon Yabusele, self-branded hat legend Nick Nurse. Also, I keep saying that. Why haven't I bought a Nick Nurse hat? Can anyone tell why have I not done that? I need to buy a Nick Nurse hat. Anyway, how dumb. This would have been the perfect thing to be doing for 2 years. I need to buy a Nick Nurse hat. But Nurse keeps rotating these guys through. So Council, you might go, yeah, maybe. And I know on some sites he would list as a shooting guard. He's not. He's like a 3 at a real stretch, but he's a 4. He can't shoot. He's a finisher. He might have the shooting guard designation on fantasy sites, Ricky Council, but he plays at the 3/4, not at the 2. Jared McCain, I believe, won't play again this season. They haven't clarified it. They said he had a repair on his meniscus, which of course is a 4 to 6 month injury, which would rule him out for the season. But they haven't told us that he's out for the season. I just think he's out for the season. So Kelly Oubre's value remains relatively high. In Phoenix, Devin Booker with the groin injury. They're calling it groin soreness, which is the new NBA code word for, yeah, he's pinged it bad. I don't think that Booker's going to be able to play on Christmas, and he has had a history of soft tissue injuries that they rush back. I think it was 2 years ago with a hamstring on Christmas and then a groin injury last season, and they rush him back, and it goes again, and he's out for long periods of time. I don't know whether they've learned their lesson. They could be dumb. That's NBA teams for you. But I don't think that Devin Booker is going to play on Christmas. I've got him returning around the 28th of December, but I would be not shocked if it pushed further. I'd also not be shocked if they were stupid and they played him, but who knows. Grayson Allen's in the concussion protocol, so that also probably rules him out for the next couple of games. He's officially out on Monday. I don't think he plays on Wednesday. He would have got a real boost with Booker out, but now he is out too, meaning Royce O'Neal gets that significant bump and Tyus Jones gets more shot attempts. In case you are wondering, Phoenix's Victor Wembanyama Bol is dealing with a knee injury, so we might get him back on Christmas to show the NBA what they were actually missing, and Oilers teams didn't fully utilize him to his best strengths, because he is, of course, the original Wembanyama, and he's can do basically all the same stuff. He might be available Christmas Bowl. And then Colin Gillespie's dealing with an ankle fracture. Maybe he returns towards the end of the month, but they're being very vague about his return, and it doesn't matter for most of us at all. In Portland, Delano Banton missed the last game with a hip issue. He is questionable on Monday. Banton still is shaping up to be an absolute silly season legend when Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant and Shaden Sharp, probably not, but maybe Denny Avdia, when all these guys get fake injuries. Banton in 25 minutes is a 12-team league guy. He's also not particularly good, let's be clear about this, but he's really inefficient and he needs a lot of things to go right, but we keep an eye on that. We haven't seen any of Matisse Thybulle this season. He had a knee injury, came back, sprained his ankle, maybe the end of December. But I also, when you look at that rotation, how does he fit? Whose minutes does he take? Honestly, where does he play? I don't know. I don't know how he gets minutes on this team. We'll see. And then Rob Williams popped up with an ankle sprain. We are absolutely dropping Robert Williams. The minutes they're getting, the fact that 3 centers are there, can't do it. His value was there when there were 2 centers out and he was going to be the guy getting 25, 26 a night, and that's not the case. So see you later, Rob. See ya. In Sacramento, it's just Devin Carter. Although, don't be shocked if... Now, they don't play till Thursday. Do not be shocked if Domantas Sabonis appears again on the injury report with back soreness. I think DeMar DeRozan is dealing with a back issue as well. But the only official injury at the moment is Devin Carter with his shoulder, and he'll be a mid-January return, and I'm almost certain he's not going to be enough to fix the Kings. The San Antonio Spurs currently do not have anyone listed on the injury report. Amazing. It won't last, but that is where we're at with them. The Toronto Raptors, there are 4 guys here. Rowan Barrett missed the last game after being ruled in on Sunday, and something is going on with my internet, and I can't actually access things to check the current status of Rowan Barrett, so I can't do it. It's just not working. So Barrett, illness, questionable for Monday. Emmanuel quickly, I'm thinking after Christmas, maybe it's around the new year that he comes back from his elbow. Jakob Poeltl, I think, could miss another couple of games, but they're being very sort of cloudy in terms of how they're describing that injury. With him out, we saw good minutes from Kelly Olynyk in the last game, but of course, if Poeltl plays, it's really hard for me to look at Olynyk and say, yeah, you're going to be a 12-team league guy. Only if Poeltl's out would I be interested in that. And we still haven't seen Bruce Brown. They keep saying, yeah, he's coming back. He's reconditioning. Maybe they don't. Maybe like Bojan Bogdanovic, they just don't want him to play. Now, Brown returning would impact guys like Jacoby Walter, would impact guys like Jamal Shed, who showed a lot of stuff yesterday. And maybe they just don't play Bruce Brown. I don't think Walter's a 12-team league guy. I don't think Shed is. But I think they're going to have moments of being at least streamable in those scenarios. And Brown returning would have an impact on that. In Utah, they downgraded Keontae George to doubtful for Monday. They've also added John Collins as doubtful with a hip issue. Now, Collins' last 2 games have been pretty pedestrian, given the standards that he set earlier this season. They've also recalled Kyle Filipowski. So, I would be not surprised. I think Filipowski probably starts. They keep marking it at 3. And if Filipowski can find a 25-minute role, and he can't at the moment, but when something happens, a Collins fake injury or a trade or something, and Filipowski is locked in as a starter, I think he'll be a 12-team league player. With George out, they start Sexton, so his minutes are going to go up. Of course, just after I said I'm done with Sexton, every sort of situation in the world happened to enable him to get 30 minutes a night. This helps Clarkson as well, and it'll probably help someone like a Svi Mykhailiuk or who's the other guy? Johnny Juzang, maybe, if you want to get really desperate and down in the old diamond, double diamond onyx, platinum, titanium weeds. That's where they live. Let's look at the Washington Wizards to finish things out. Bilal Coulibaly popped up with a groin injury. He is questionable on Monday. Alex Sarr is questionable with a back injury. And Kyle Kuzma, who knows, man? It's been about a month with this rib sprain. When's he coming back? Because him coming back is going to impact a lot. It's going to impact our ability to watch this team because he's actually horrible. And Kyle Kuzma is what you think Jordan Poole is to watch. Jordan Poole has been, again, I say this with a level of be cautious about how you read into what I'm saying. And we're comparing it to his teammates and the way that he played last season. Jordan Poole has been awesome. His usage is up. His true shooting is like 60%. He's contributing defensively. His passing is better. He has been actually very good. Awesome's too far. Jordan Poole has been very good this season. Kyle Kuzma is what you think Jordan Poole is. Some of the worst shot decisions, hijacking an offense. Poole doesn't actually do that. So we actually don't want Kuzma back unless we've got Kuzma on our team. And at this point, I don't know what to do with it. I have Kuzma on a couple of teams because I am clearly an idiot and I'm holding him. But I also, like, if you're in like a 10-team category league, I'm not sure you need to. Because he's also can be bad in category leagues for certain builds. And there's just too much uncertainty around whenever this idiot's coming back. And then when he does come back, it impacts George and Champagny and Kispert and Bilal and all these guys. If Bilal does miss and Sarr does miss, it's going to be the bumper, right? So you're going to have guys that step up. Valanciunas, you might get one game out of him. If he's on your bench, activate him. Sure, love it. But would I add him for it? Probably not. If someone dropped Justin Champagny, would I add the passion pop just because Bilal might be out? Probably not. It's not worth it for a one-game bumper, I don't think. And that brings us to the end of the show, which is great. Love it. Love to see it. As I sit here waiting for this show to end, I'm very worried about why my internet is not allowing me to access certain sites. Have I just been banned from a bunch of sites? It's very frustrating. And that's okay. We'll figure that out as I upload it, and hopefully I have an answer by the time you're watching this. But if I don't, like RIP to me and I guess looking at stuff on my computer, go and thumb it up and subscribe and do all of that stuff. But as you know, the most important thing that I want you to do is just acknowledge that you did something good. Just acknowledge it. You don't have to acknowledge it to me. You can. If you want to write it in the comments, tell me what you did good today. That's cool. Acknowledge it to yourself, and let's be positive to ourselves and each other. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.